Hello, my empowered friends. It's Rodney Allgood coming to you with another edition of the Empower Hour. This is going to be a good one today, so have a pen and paper, take some notes. We're going to really get into some things today. Today, we're going to be talking about it being the beginning of the end for the JWs and religions like that. And we're going to be talking about the need to be in position for what will be happening in the next few years. So let's get into this. You know, it's a change that we're going through in society in general. We're going through a major change. I say it's a change of consciousness, the shift of consciousness. Things are changing. And through history, you'll find that certain things were acceptable for a period of time, and then the whole thought process of whatever that was goes away. And we're at the beginning of watching this happen, not just for the Jehovah Witnesses. There's a lot of things that people just won't tolerate anymore because society is changing. The consciousness is changing. What worked at some point in time no longer works anymore. It's a different kind of consciousness that is going on. And for a lot of religions, not just the Jehovah's Witnesses, but for a lot of doomsday religion, the time is up. It's not something that is palatable to the generation that's coming up today. Anybody under 30 sees the world very differently. It doesn't work the same way. The same tactics don't work. There were a lot of religions that came up in the 1800s that were fear based doomsday religions that were predicting Armageddon would come any second, the end of the world, doomsday religions. And you have to look at what was going on at that time because those kinds of religions are based on fear. And here in America, where most of them started, you're coming out of the Civil War, going through all that stuff that was happening in the mid 1800s. Life was hard. At the beginning of the 20th century, in the year 1900, the average lifespan for a white male in America was 47 years. The average lifespan for a black male in America was 33. You had things like World War One and the things that preceded World War One going on. You had things like the Spanish flu, the plague, these things that were just decimating society. Um, all kinds. Polio was big. There were so many things that kept people in fear. Then you rolled into World War II. You rolled into the Great Depression. There were so many things that made people feel like this must be the end of the world. You know, society was really freaking out over COVID. But when you compare that to the Spanish flu, which killed between 50 and 80 million people, that was nothing. I mean, you had a lot of things to really be fearful of. And then you had a segments of society that was downtrodden. You had um, the African Americans here in America that were slaves in the 1800s up to 1865, and then had laws that kept them from operating as full citizens for years up until the late 60s. So a lot of people wanted hope. People that were coming out of the Great Depression wanted hope. People that were, had their families decimated by these crazy illnesses wanted hope. It looked like the world was crumbling on them. And these religions who are fear based, what they did is they created an enemy, they created fear, and they created a hope that only comes through them. So we're going to give you the thing to fear, and then we're going to give you the penicillin. We're going to give you the solution. And that is how you really control people with those elements. This worked for a very long time. As children, we grew up with fear. We got spanked. We got hit. Our parents instilled fear. Fear was a major tool. Fear doesn't work anymore. These children don't get spanked. Anybody under 30 probably never got spanked. I used to get spanked in the Kingdom Hall walking down the aisleway to the bathroom. I'm getting whacked on the way to the bathroom. I remember there was this one person in the hall. She carried a big cooking stick in her purse, and she would just pull it out of her purse and whack any of her kids. It was long enough for her to catch one of her kids 3 seats down. She'd whack them back in the head, right in the meeting. Can't do that anymore. You go to jail for that. It's a different age. What used to work doesn't work. It's a different kind of consciousness. There's too much information for people. There's too many ways for people to grow. You can't scare people the way you did. If you look at history, certain things were acceptable, then it's non acceptable. The way African Americans are treated in America, what worked even 40, 50 years ago? No, it's not working. People aren't having it. Women, look at what happened with the Me Too movement. All those years of women being abused and no one saying anything, and these men holding power over these women. No, it's not happening anymore. Like society says, no more, and it changes. And this is happening with certain kinds of religions because the things that we used to fear right up into the 80s, we feared things like nuclear war. You know, I graduated in 1985, so I'm old enough to have seen the whole 1975 thing. I was probably like 8 years old back then, but I remember the fervor. I remember all the talks, and I remember the fear they were putting in people about 1975. And then that came and went, and it went from being 1975 to around 1975. So the whole time I grew up, it was it can't be but a few more years. It's right around the corner. You'll never graduate from high school. You'll never get married. All these things that weren't supposed to happen, and here I am all these years later. I'm a grandfather, right? But the things that they use for fear in the 80s, the Cold War between the U.S. and Russia, made us feel like a nuclear war could happen at any minute, and we lived in fear of that. That's no more. How many times do you hear people talking about the end of the world by nuclear war? We don't really talk about that anymore. People are empowered because there's so much information. You can't control information like you used to. You can't keep people in the dark. The only people who are kept in the dark are people who are willingly wanting to be in the dark. I had a conversation with my father just last week, and it was just amazing to me. And I love my dad, but it was just amazing how much he's willfully in the dark. He wants to be in the dark. If I were to say, Dad, do you want to know this one thing? It's factual. You can look it up. This is a fact. This was on the news, or this is whatever. If I want to show my dad something that is real, and he knows it's real, he doesn't want to see it. And that's most witnesses. They don't want the truth. They talk about the truth. We have the truth. They don't want the truth. They only want things to back what they believe. They do not want the truth. But truth is all around us. And this isn't just about the witnesses. This is about society. The witnesses aren't the only organization that dupes you. Your government dupes you. I don't care where you're from. Your education system dupes you. You've been lied to about history. History is not what they tell you it is. And guess what? That's becoming more and more a common fact, a common knowledge that history is a lie. But what happens when history is a lie? If history is a lie, then your religion might be a lie. You see, one thing unravels everything else. It's all connected. It's not just the witnesses. There's a waking up to real truth, to truer truth. And a lot of things aren't going to sustain what's going on in society. You see, to be a good witness, you must be disconnected from yourself. And people are starting to connect with themselves. The witnesses are changing their tactics because they realize that fear isn't working. So when you see these changes, like people being able to wear beards, or women able to wear slacks, and not counting time, and all these big sweeping changes they've made, they don't make changes just to make changes. They don't make changes because Jehovah showed them new light. They make changes out of necessity. So knowing that you have a generation coming up, people under 30, 35, that aren't the same, people who do not work with fear, then you must make the environment more comfortable for them. You must make sure that they're closer to the world that they live in. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to make it comfortable because fear doesn't work. The witnesses have the worst retention rate of any religion of any size, the worst retention rate. And that has to change. So we're going to make sweeping changes so that people are more comfortable. You don't have to turn in time anymore. Well, of course, you don't want to turn in time because it will be very obvious that your numbers are going down. And also, let's make it more comfortable to stay. All these changes are to make it more comfortable for a generation that does not move by fear. Kids just don't move like that anymore. And there's such a disconnect from the way the witnesses ran to what they're trying to establish today. They were way behind times. If you were to watch a show from the 50s, say you watch Leave It to Beaver, 50s or early 60s, um, Andy Griffith show, right? It's such a disconnect from the world we live in today. But the witnesses were still stuck there. You watch their little plays or whatever, the little dramas that they do, little skits, whatever you want to call them. They weren't in touch with today. They're of another time, and people don't relate to it. So you're going to see more changes. You're going to watch more things become a conscious matter to create an environment that's comfortable for the generation coming up. But whenever you make sweeping changes, a lot of people wake up. You kind of end up being between a rock and a hard place because a lot of people wake up. A lot of people go, "Oh, I didn't get to do all that. You're going to change it now?" A lot of people say, "You know what? I thought that. I thought this was ridiculous all these years, and now you're going to change it." You're going to lose people every time you make a sweeping change like that. But it's a different time. And you're going to watch an organization that is going to keep making changes out of desperation, right? When you watch them sell kingdom halls and assembly halls, and when I was growing up, I just remember it was all about the quick builds, always building kingdom halls, always building kingdom halls. When was the last time you heard of a quick build? Because they are regressing, they're spinning, they're digressing, they're desperate. And when you're desperate, you do desperate things. You take desperate measures. And when you take desperate measures, I promise you there will be dissension. You watch what happens in the next 5 years. You mark my words, and you remember I said this. Watch what happens. When you get desperate, the people at the top will have dissension. That's probably why they got rid of one of the governing body members, because there's dissension. It's going to implode. Now, that being said, what are we going to do about it? We got to look at where we want to be as this implosion happens. This can't keep going. They're between a rock and a hard place. Information is too accessible. You've got more people living a double life now than ever. Information is too accessible. Life was different before. I remember, when I wanted to listen to music that I wasn't supposed to listen to. I remember having my Rick James cassette tape and a Prince cassette tape that I would hide. Right? I mean, you can't control what kids listen to today. You got one of these, you listen to whatever you want to listen to. You can't keep a teenager going through adolescence and the change to not watch pornography. Can't control it. Mm-mm. Information, good and bad, it's too available. If kids are going through something and they want to listen to a podcast that has information that they relate to, they can just tune into that. We didn't have that. You could control things. I mean, growing up, I had three TV stations. TV went off at midnight. It would say the end, this is the end of the broadcasting day, and TV went off. Well, now you have hundreds of stations. Information is too abundant. They're desperate to keep their members because preaching doesn't work at all. They cannot grow in a developed country. You can't tell somebody who's a new Bible study not to Google. You have no idea how many people join this group, and when they answer the questions to join the group, they'll say, I'm studying with one of them and I want more information. Happens all the time. People just want information. They know they'll come here, they'll get information. And trust me, all of them quit studying. You can't be in this group and not go, whoa, whoa, what am I getting into? The only people that this organization can ever convince is a desperate person, someone going through things. That's why they call people in the obituaries. How disgusting is that? They call people that are hurting and vulnerable who just need hope. That's the only people, the people that want to believe something. They're so desperate, they want to believe something. Oh my God, I want to see my father again. What? I get to see him again? Okay, I will be willfully ignorant so that I can have this hope in my life because this hope gives me comfort. And these people give me comfort. And this community gives me comfort. That's the only people that might listen to them. Preaching does not work. Hence, they're reaching out to people who are disfellowshipped because they're looking for people who are still indoctrinated. The people who maybe couldn't keep up with the rules, or the people who maybe got involved with somebody, or, they still believe it, right? But they're not in it. They're reach because that's the only people you'll be able to reach. Times are changing. You know, many of you are familiar with the bite model that was taught by Stephen Hassan. Look at what's happening to the bite model. All cults use the bite model: behavior control, information control, thought control, and emotional control. Behavior control. How do you control that today? So much of our lives is on a computer. How do you control that? Can't. We used to have 3 meetings a week. Now you have 2 meetings a week. We used to. I remember when I was in high school, I had Watchtower prep on Monday. I had book study on Tuesday. I had to go in service after school on Wednesday. On Thursday, we had service meeting. Friday was my one free day. Saturday, I had to go out in service in the mornings. Sunday was meeting, sometimes service after meeting. And on top of that, I had to conduct the day's text at school. I had to round out all the witness kids and do the day's text. I couldn't even have a doggone recess. You see, behavior control. No more. Kids would never put up with that today. If I was growing up today, I would never put up with that. I'd scream and kick. I would not put up with that today because it's such a disconnect from everything around me. Not happening. Information control. You cannot control information. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Anything can wake you up. It's not just about being against the religion. Anything can wake you up. You might be watching something on the History Channel about the pyramids or whatever, something that goes into history that makes what you're taught not make sense. Any reasonable person today knows that this earth is not 6,000 years old. Now, as that becomes common knowledge, what do? It's just not. They are finding so many things, and so much information is being spread to the public There was a time that even the governments held information. The Catholic Church is another one, the big institution that held information. You can't hold information anymore. YouTube and all these different sources, all these podcasts, and everybody has a voice. You know, I'll put this video. Some of you are watching this on YouTube because it'll go from the group to YouTube, and instantly thousands of people will watch this. When could that ever happen? Instantly, thousands of people will hear what I have to say. And that's true for any one of us if you want to go and develop that. When did that ever happen? Somebody will watch this video who's on the fence, who's just kind of waking up and just poking around at things, and see this video that will help wake them up. How cool is that? Emotional control. That starts to wane too. You know, the witnesses control your emotion by instilling fear. So when you lose your tool of fear, what do you have? We just don't live in a fearful world. We live in a world that's consciousness is changing. To stay a witness, you must reject knowledge. You must stay ignorant. It's the only way that you can be a witness. So what do we do? What do we do to prepare? No, I don't say this to just beat up on the witnesses. I'm just talking a reality here. And if that is a reality, then we've got to put ourselves in position to take advantage of the coming reality, the current reality and the coming reality. We have to put ourselves in position to receive, because I guarantee you in the next 5 years, by the year 2030, there will be droves of people coming to groups like this. And you don't want to be someone who's stuck in anger. You don't want to be someone who's stuck just going, I told you so. You don't want to be someone who's resentful. You want to be thriving in life so you can accept these people. You don't want to be in a position where your loved ones wake up and you can't lead them anywhere because you haven't gone anywhere and you're stuck in anger and resentment. You got to prepare yourself for what's going to happen. So you have to get yourself in a position to receive so you can lead people to a place of happiness. You can lead people to a place of understanding unconditional love. It's all of us. You know, you don't want to be someone who leaves a religion and doesn't progress anywhere, who just leaves a doctrine but still holds the kind of emotions and a need to be right like the religion did. You cannot be a Jehovah Witness and act just like one. You cannot be a Jehovah Witness and think just like one. But now is your time to elevate so that you are part of what receives what's coming. So now it's important to work to depersonalize anything. With your family, it's hard, I know, lots of hurt. I go through it too. But depersonalize it and understand that these are simply people who have been caught in a brainwashing. Simply people who um, have not got to the point where the scales haven't weighed in the right way. What I mean by that is when people leave, when you left the religion, the pain of staying outweighed the benefit. I mean, the pain of staying outweighed the benefit of leaving, right? But when the benefit of leaving outweighed the advantages you got of staying, you decided to leave. For some people, it's just like, I can't be out of alignment anymore. I can't live a lie. It's painful. I can't do this. And when it got like that, you had to leave. For some people, they must be in alignment. For some people, being in truth is really important. For a lot of you, it got to a point where you just couldn't bear to stand. You couldn't stand the voice. You couldn't stand what they were saying. I mean, you probably had to go outside or use the restroom, or it was driving you crazy. You got so out of resonance with what was going on. And you started to be able to see that the people looked like robots, that the things that people were saying on stage were manipulative, weren't true. weren't honest, weren't genuine, and you couldn't stay. And that's going to happen for a whole lot more people. Depersonalize your feelings. Understand that there are people on top of this whole thing that put people in a position that makes them hard to leave. And they use a lot of tactics that have to do with mind control and actually brainwashing people. People are under a spell. Rise to the frequency of love. Fear is of the lowest of frequencies. That's why the Jehovah Witness religion, that's a very low frequency religion because it's based in fear. Allow yourself to rise to love. Love is a very high frequency. When you're in love, when you move in love and you are self assured in that, nothing intimidates you. Well, witnesses don't intimidate you. I don't get intimidated at all by witnesses because I move in love. I have no anger. I understand that people, we're all one. Some people are on the path to finding themselves. Some people are very lost. But I don't live by the rules of lost people. Keep moving to having love in your heart. You know, true freedom is the freedom to love. True freedom is not just being away from the religion, but true freedom is understanding unconditional love for others and self. And it starts with self. Focus on yourself. See the value in you. When you see the value in you, when you begin to love yourself, loving others becomes easier. And seeing past people's agendas and the things that people are lost because they're not thinking, we can see past it. Lose the need to be right. Witnesses have a need to be right. Um, you know, when I speak to my father, and I love my dad, but he's hung the phone. He hangs the phone up on me 3 out of every 5 times that we talk. He just hangs the phone up because he has a need to be right. And when you're truly right about what you're saying, the other person can feel it. When what you're saying is real truth, there's a resonance inside that other person. And that's why they do things like hang up the phone. The light. It's like you turn the light on in the room that they want dark. Lose the need to be right. Be love. And that's what I try to be. I try to be love. And sometimes some people can't take that because that's a light. It's like you're turning on the room. Being a witness is like being in a dark room and having people tell you what's in the room and you believe them and you move accordingly. Waking up is like turning on the light and you see that everything they said was in the room is not there. Move in love. Give people a path to follow. People will wake up in their own due time. You can't force people to wake up. A person convinced against their will stay of the same opinion still. For some people, they like comfort. For courageous people, they understand that what you want in life is always outside your comfort zone. If you want something in life and you don't presently have it, it's because that thing exists outside your comfort zone. You must stretch. And to stretch, you must be courageous. And if you are a witness, courage is applied to your faith, not to yourself. Stop blaming others. Stop blaming the witnesses. You can only use that excuse for so long. You can only use that excuse when you first wake up, knowing that you're in that position because of where you've been. But at some point, you must realize that life is not fair for anyone. We're not privy to this situation, just us. We're not special. Life on planet Earth is challenging for everybody. There's the opposite of everything, and we all face the opposite of everything. Where there's light, there's darkness. Where there's big, there's small. Where there's good, there's bad. Life is challenging. We must take responsibility for our lives. Wherever we are, we must make the best of this present moment. The more you make of this present moment, the better future you create for yourself. But if you're not taking advantage of this present moment and you're blaming the witnesses and you're blaming the things behind you, then you keep creating the same thing over and over again and you're stuck in a loop. And you are the one creating that loop. Life's not fair for anybody. Life's not fair for the person who got a terrible diagnosis last week. Life's not fair for my best friend who had a stroke and can't move the left side of his body. Life's just not fair. We got to get over it and we got to get moving. Life's short, it's not long. We cannot waste our time just worried about the things beyond our control. So let's take responsibility from our lives. Let's move it to a place of love and let's begin a movement that is appealing to all. So let's bring our panel to the stage. We got Jack, we got MP, we got Christine, we got Gary, and Stone. All right, so who wants to get started? Jack?
Well, a couple of things that you mentioned really resonate with me. Uh, you mentioned that the group is growing. Hopefully, we're seeing the changes that the Watchtower is doing. Every time there are changes, more and more people wake up. Every time there's a shift, why that happens is because that allows people to think that something is okay to change. That's one. Second, they realize, oh, if that used to be true and now it's not, what else that I believe today, tomorrow will change, and then it might not be true anymore. The moment the person starts opening up that file, it's the moment they start to wonder and the moment they start to question. So the more things Jehovah's Witnesses change, the more people will wake up. Inevitable. But I'm very glad to see people who go through those phases and eventually they no longer need us. They no longer connect on Facebook. They no longer connect with the XJW community. They know that. And I'm very happy to see that because that means they moved beyond it. They chose their path in life. They found out what they wanted and they moved on. And it's wonderful. It's the last thing I wanted to see is a whole bunch of people 20 years later still like, I still have this problem, still have that problem. No, 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 we want to heal as quickly as possible, and this is why we're here trying to help people move forward. But at the same time, we got to remember that what we went through, that programming, the cold mindset, whatever, it was never a waste of time unless we use it to move forward and help others. Rodney went through hell. I went through hell. All of you guys went through hell when you guys were waking up. That pain, that everything that we went through, it can be a gift to somebody else. And there's so many people leaving, so many people questioning. COVID woke up a lot of people. It has never been easier to walk away from JWs as it is right now. Never. Because you don't have to report the hours. You don't have to go to the meetings. You can click on Zoom and pretend that you're watching. You don't even have to, turn on your camera. There's a lot of physically and mentally out people, a lot, and very quickly, the moment they're like, oh, there's a community, there's support, they're gonna they're gonna start moving away, and you guys are gonna be very much needed because there's an avalanche of people coming out, and whatever you went through was never a waste. Use it, help others, contribute, even if it's just by listening. No idea how much these people need somebody to listen and understand how they feel because they've been going to a therapist for 5 years and the therapist has no idea what the hell you guys talking about, but you do. So don't feel like what you went through is a waste.
I love it. Yeah. As you progress, when you feel like you've healed enough, turn around and help others, right? So you can, if you stay around and stick in the group, instead of looking at it as, you know, something that you need, if you do get past that point, turn around and help others because we're going to need all hands on board because this is going to be a big work. As Jack said, it's never been easier to leave. Part of keeping people in the mentality is keeping them really busy, right? I shared what my life was like growing up. There was no time to even think anything else. And again, that doesn't work anymore. And now that you're, to me, they're making some missteps if you're trying to run a great cult, right? They're making some mistakes, and we have to be here to catch the fruit that is falling off the tree. Next, Christine.
Thank you. Thanks for going over bite again. I uh, I appreciated learning that from you in the boot camp, and it really helped me to see where in my subconscious a lot of this programming was and my fears for moving forward. And I really feel, many of us are stuck in savior mentality or fantasy because it was like, wait for Armageddon, hold on, brighter things are coming, wait till the new earth, all of that. And it's like we get to a point where we do look around and go, okay, what's for me now? Instead of waiting or, wanting someone to save us, we are the ones that take that responsibility. And I think a really big part of the stages is letting go of blame. Because when I like that etymology of the word blame, blame is to be lame. And so, as you're blaming someone else, you're hurting yourself. You're laming yourself in the sense of you cannot move forward because you're looking outside for that validation. When we start to look within and we look at why did that person, exist in my life, or why did the situation, why did we end up in the organization? There had to be a purpose for it on a bigger scale. And Jack, I got goosebumps when you said, like prepare, we need you because people are definitely, all religions are buckling, and there's a documentary coming out this summer about where the money goes in the Christian church that's going to blow holes in what they're doing over there. So it's on a grand scale, and I do feel we came into awareness earlier so that we could heal our own wounds, figure out what our purpose is, find community, and then absolutely be able to turn around and help someone else. But I find, that tricky part is moving out of blame and seeing, okay, where can I start to own my own life and what I want or what I'm going to create, and stop looking at the closed doors. Be prepared. I mean, if your family all of a sudden wants to have a relationship with you, got to be prepared for that, having done the inner work around anger and rage and hurt and all of that, so that you're not judging back when they want to come now have a relationship with you. It's like you're at a different place where maybe you could hold the idea of that or not. You get to choose, which is really beautiful. But it is absolutely preparing for all religions, I feel, to crumble and having that space where now we move forward and what is consciousness and connection on a deeper level for everybody.
Right. When we blame, we lose our power. Blame is asking the person that hurt you to fix it. And that never happens. That's not going to happen. Right. So life is what it is. We have to take responsibility. And thank you for sharing that. No one is going to fix our lives but us, regardless of what it was. And when you remember that there are some people that have grown up in some horrific situations who have come out on top. You know, I was talking to somebody, I was speaking at this conference here in Vegas, and this big old 6'11" um, guy was one of the lost boys of Sudan. He was an executive at the hotel that I was speaking at, and he told his story, and I got to speak to him after. The Lost Boys of Sudan were a group of kids that were sent away from their village because of the war that was going on, and the oldest of them was 14 years old, like thousands of kids, and the oldest was 14, and they had to trek across their country to safety. And some of them were brought to America. And this man was 6 years old, and when he spoke of what he went through, the oldest leader of the group was 14 years old, and they're walking and just finding a way to survive. And this man is an executive at a hotel in Vegas, and he's making well into the six figures today. And like his story was so awful, but he's the happiest guy, thriving, wife, kids, making good money here in Vegas, and living the life. But now his story empowers others. You see, oh, he had people riveted. He had people feeling like, what am I complaining about? And that's what the power that all of us have as we come through this. Now, if he was just going to be a victim for the rest of his life because of what he went through and go, no, you understand what I've been through as a child and use that for the rest of his life, he would not be living that life today. So thank you for mentioning that. Next, Gary.
Yeah, just a little bit more on the subject of blame. There are, if we blame the witnesses, as you said when we're first out, we're probably right. They probably are the reason why we have certain, maybe emotional difficulties or difficulties focusing, being successful. But you notice I use the word probably because it might not be completely the Jehovah's Witnesses. But let's say it is. Even if they're completely responsible for all of our problems, it's still not healthy to dwell on for all the reasons that have already been mentioned. Because it's up to us if we're gonna. Yeah, I mean, I always think about when I was a kid. I was maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, and I used to get in fights with the kid across the street from me. He was a year older and a lot bigger than me. So I didn't really learn how to fight that well by that age. And there was one summer that he messed up one of my eyes. I could not see out of that eye for the whole summer, and it was a real mess. And years later, I realized in my 20s, I mean, obviously I healed from it, but in my 20s, I realized I needed glasses mainly because of that eye. It wasn't because my vision was failing because of age. So am I blaming this kid? Am I, like I'm however old I am now, and I'm going to say, Michael Lindsay, I'm going to kill that guy if I ever see him. It's just what happened. Kids get into fights. It happens. I'm glad something worse didn't happen. He didn't even break my arm or crack my skull open. But anyway, getting a little bit off the track a little bit. So it's just healthy to not always be blaming somebody for whatever our condition is, because even if they were responsible for it, it's up to us, as was already said, to do something about it, to move beyond it. But the other thing is, and this is why I said the word probably, is because it's usually people that have grown in, were born in or came into the Jehovah's Witnesses at a very, very early age, because that's all they know. So naturally, they're going to think that all of my problems are due to the witnesses. But as we experience more of the real world, and I mean the real world, and we see different things people have coped with their whole lives, we're going to probably realize more and more that not all of my problems are directly related to Jehovah's Witnesses, or even if a problem is related to the Jehovah's Witnesses, we might have had it because of a school teacher anyway, or because of the kids. It's not. We'll eventually realize that it's just not appropriate to even think that they're responsible for anything that we're having difficulties with. When I tell my story, and I go back to my childhood and talk about why I stuck with the witnesses for so long and all that stuff. I often talk about how I would love to have just stayed home and watched Saturday morning cartoons every Saturday. That would have been paradise to me, but I couldn't because Dad always had things in mind for us to do. We always had to be the nerds in school, wearing the casual but neat, whatever you want to call them, slacks, and our hair had to be short in the years when the only way to be cool was to have longer hair. He was critical about our musical choices. There were kids that were considered bad association right on my block, 2 doors down from me, the Banishevskis. Don't even want you near their house. Right across the street from them, the Baliches, don't go to their house either. I was not raised as a JW. My father was Catholic, my mother was Baptist, and she raised us as Lutheran. And yet, you probably were thinking like, yeah, well, yeah, of course you were typical JW with all those problems, but no, that was the way I grew up. My dad was a hard ass, real conservative guy. That's just the way it was. I don't resent it now. It's just part of the way I grew up. So for two reasons, we have to really not do the blame thing. One, that's again, it's been stated a bunch of times because it's just not healthy and it's not going to help us move forward. But also because we'll eventually probably realize that problems come from every direction. We'll probably get abused by a boss, and in fact, I'll just tell you one little quick anecdote that a good friend of mine, someone that's in this group, is going for. I'm not sure what her degree is, but it's like a psychiatric thing, and she's doing legal. It has something to do with the legal profession as well. You're probably familiar with seeing her posts and everything. And she's like, I don't even know how old, in her 40s or 50s, and she's making really great progress. But as she describes the problems that she's having with her instructors and the people that she might be working for, I just think, well, That's the real world. It's the way it is. Has nothing to do with Jehovah's Witnesses. It has to do with this is the first time she's really going through this education process and the problems that happen in any work environment. It's not a perfect world. It's never going to be a perfect world. So anyway, I said enough, I guess. But the point is just to get far away from the blame game. It's never going to help you move forward.
Yeah. When you look at life as a school, what did I learn? When you look at your past, asking, what did I learn? Instead of saying, what was wrong? What did I learn? That's all the past is good for to me is lessons. And then trying to move forward and learning things that help me move forward. What am I learning that will help me move forward? What can I learn today that I did not know? What can I learn from my mistakes of the past or the good things and the bad things? You know, I'm long divorced. I've been divorced for 15 years. I still look at my marriage and go, what did I learn? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? It's a big lesson for me. Everything in life is a lesson. These aren't things that I feel were done to me, they're lessons for me. So if you could change your paradigm on that, it will help you a lot. Okay, next. Cindy?
Yeah, I just wanted to go off what everybody else was saying about learning lessons. I had someone come to my house once helping me with a bit about moving, but he said something really interesting. There are two things in life. There's blessings and there's lessons. And the blessings of course are what you want, but you're going to have lessons. They're not, they may be mistakes, they may be failures, they may be stumbling, but think of them as lessons instead of mistakes, failures, you know, things that you did wrong. Think of them as lessons. Don't think of them as the things you screwed up on. Think of them as the things you learned from, and just make that switch inside your brain and just say, oh, I learned from that. I need to adjust that in my brain and say that was just a stepping stone to something else. And the one thing I learned from being a witness for 27 years was organization. They are a highly organized group, and they taught me a little bit about organizing things. And to this day, I still have things organized in certain ways. I do this, this, and this, and then this, and this happens. And so I treasure that little bit of my time as a witness because it taught me to think in terms of this goes here, and this goes here, and this goes here, and then this goes here, and this goes here, and this goes here. And that's something I didn't have as good a grasp on before I became a witness. And so, you know, being a witness is not all bad, neither is it all good. It's just something that I went through in a period in my life. And even though I'm glad I got out of it, I'm not going to say that it was the greatest part of my life. I'm not going to say it was the worst part of my life. It was just a part of my life. And um, it gave me a good perspective to see that life goes on. you know you can't stay in that position forever and say, well, the witnesses did this to me and I'm going to be this way my entire life. No, you grow. You move on. You don't, like Rodney is always fond of saying, you don't stay in contact with your high school principal forever. You let that stuff go. And so with the witnesses, we have to let go. And so, when you let go, it's so much easier. You don't necessarily let go of your family, no, but you learn how to accept them for where they're at in their life right now. But you move on with your life to where you want to go right now. You keep moving on with your life, and maybe, just maybe, they'll see where you're going and go, hey, that's not a bad place. Maybe I want to go there too. And they'll come along with you. But you have to set the example.
I love it. Just expanding on a couple of things you said. Remember, make sure you give yourself a story where you're the winner. What do I mean by that? Well, if you were a good witness, if you excelled in it, maybe you pioneered, maybe you were a servant or an elder, if you excelled in it, then tell yourself the story that when I was a witness, I won. Yeah, I was a good one. I succeeded at that. Now I'm on to something else.
Hmm.
When I was there, I succeeded. Now I'm on to something else. If you weren't a, you know, exemplary witness, right? That's a lot of people's story. They weren't that. They were never a servant. They were never a pioneer. They might have been the one always in trouble and always judged. Then your story is this: I was in something that was out of alignment, and I could feel it. I could not succeed in it because it's not who I was. I was just raised in it. It just was something I didn't pick. But I was conscious enough to know that something was wrong with this, and I never succeeded at it because my consciousness was actually too high when I was in it. You see how you could tell yourself a story that makes you win regardless? Find your story and give yourself that story so this thing is not a weight that you're carrying with you. Either way, you win. And remember, things are a reason, a season, or a lifetime for a lot of people, for most people. Some of you weren't raised witnesses. Gary wasn't raised a witness. He shared that, right? But for some of us, it served a purpose. For some of us, it did do something well, good for us. Some people were lost and on drugs and struggling with life, and they found a community that helped them to get over that thing. So that religion was a bridge for you. Doesn't mean it serves you for the rest of your life, but it might have been a bridge for you. So understand that different things may come into your life and serve a purpose, and just see the purpose that it served and let it go because it's not serving you anymore. So we don't have to hold on to the resentment. Sometimes we held on to it for too long, but all kinds of things can serve a purpose in our lives. MP, you got something?
I was thinking about what you were talking about earlier about the service and the convention stuff like that, and I did it hit me when you were talking. I was like, wow, we used to have dramas, and we're always. I mean, I remember being a kid raised as a witness, 5, 7 years old. I can't wait for the drama. But now we think about the word drama. A lot of it was drama. And there was some of them that were just so frightening on stage. Or I don't know if you guys remember this one where the TV turned on and they just stopped the preaching work immediately and all this kind of stuff. It was just drama. What was going to happen to the witnesses? What's going to happen? And when you don't live in that fear anymore and you're able to think outside the box, I mean that really helps us to mature better. And I love what you were saying. We all need to grow stronger and also show others because they're gonna be lost in the sauce. They don't. I mean, they're raised. They need direction. They need these tips and how to get back into the community and actually be a part of something that they really believe in. But yeah, it's just but the things that we have in the past, use that as a launching pad to help you to be a better person and just keep moving forward. So yeah, that's what I've got.
Yeah, certain things, you know, just don't work anymore, right? It's like, remember that video where they're all in a bunker and hiding in the basement in a bunker or something like that, and
Yeah.
they're that that looks stupid today. That would have worked. That it was a great production, right? I mean, they produce like really really high level stuff now with their production studios and stuff. But if you were to have did that in the '70s, that would have been effective. Kids today would look at something like that and go, "That's dumb."
Mm.
They just don't have that kind of fear, right? So it doesn't work anymore, and people are just flat waking up to manipulative things. You just cannot. They're just not buying it.
One thing.
Even. even the things that we used to see in the Bible story book and these awful images that kids are fed. People of today look at that as abuse. People of today see through it and say that's abusive to feed that to a child, and then they wake up. You had something else, MP?
Hey, yeah, I was just gonna say, Rodney, I heard read something earlier before, some comment that somebody was talking to an elder about why they're not counting out time, and this lady said that verbatim, that he said that where, because they don't do time is because when the end of the world comes, the angels are going to go back to the kingdom halls and see who was going out in service and doing what they needed to do. It's like that doesn't even make sense, you know.
Yeah,
Just certain things that they're, twisting around, and it
right,
doesn't make no sense. It's just like a joke.
right. And this generation is not buying it. It just doesn't work anymore.
Right.
So it just doesn't work. So the as time goes on, the more ridiculous it all seems. So we all have to get prepared for this influx of people. Gary?
Yeah, it's been said a number of times in previous broadcasts that, and we're hinting at it today about how we want to be motivated and acting in love and be there for these people because when they do leave in droves, they're going to be like walking zombies. Like they won't know what to do. So we're going to be able to help them. But if we are, and this is what I was going to say that has been said a number of times before, not by me, but people don't follow people that hate and resent. I mean, typically people don't follow somebody that lives in hatred, that just is always spewing hatred. And it just doesn't help anybody. So how are we going to be able to help anybody if we're stuck in anger? And it really takes a lot of energy to stay angry when you think about it, because you got to really have a good memory for one thing. Because you have to remember, why am I angry? You don't just wake up every morning angry. You have to remember that oh, that's right, I wanted to be angry because these people really screwed up my life. And maybe it was 10 or 20 years ago. We have to constantly be reminding ourselves and using all that energy to be resentful and angry and full of hate. So yeah, if we're going to be a resource for people, and we're not going to help anybody get out now with hatred, just by saying your doctrines are all messed up and telling them how screwed up I am because of the Watchtower. We're just proving to them that we're screwed up because we left the Watchtower. Yeah, it's really important to focus on love and the things that really make us happy and the things that we're really grateful for.
You know what people want to follow. You see, when we're angry ex-witnesses, like you said, no one wants to follow that. They don't want to follow anger. They want to be loved. Everybody just wants to be loved. They want to be acknowledged. They want to be seen. So when somebody leaves, and if we can acknowledge them, and if we could say, I see you, I see the part of you that was buried in that religion, I see you. Ooh, they come easy then. All right, my friends. So thank you again. We're up to our time limit. We're at the hour. Have a happy Sunday fun day for those of you who are having a little fun on this Easter Sunday. Go have fun, whatever that is to you today. If it's just a fun with your family, go do whatever you do. Okay, take care, and we will see you next week.